Welcome to your online film course, English 214. I'm your professor, Dr. Raquel Permenter, and I want you to know who you're talking to when you're speaking to me online, asking questions. I've taught film analysis for many years. I haven't recently, but it was one of my areas for my PhD, and I'm very excited to be teaching it to you now. If you're wondering why this is an important course and I think should be a requirement for all students, it's because that all of us are bombarded with images constantly by the moving image. I don't think you're aware totally of how much your sense of reality and who you are have been determined by film images, by video images. If you think about it, you'll understand that. If so much of our culture and so much of the world is trying to present itself to you and who you are using film images, it just makes sense that you would understand how that manipulation works. Manipulation of your thoughts and your emotions sounds like this big paranoid, scary thing, but it isn't. It can also be for good. It can also be for entertainment and for emotional release. There are a lot of reasons for it. Most of us just watch films, watch video passively. We don't think. It sort of like washes over us, and we react as though it's either absurd or the real world. What you're going to learn at the end of this course is how to watch films actively, how to read the camera, how to read the use of the image, how to read the editing. When you do that, you're going to get a much more rich experience from it. And it has very practical applications for your life as well, in terms of your use of visual images and your reception of them. In terms of art, film is a leading art of the 21st century, and even though it's digital now and not so much, I don't know where film is going to go as far as the technology goes. You're going to see these films, which are mostly fiction films for this course because we have this compressed course, and see how story, how narrative creates lives and how art works in that manner. So my best advice to you is to listen to what Dr. Kondraby says next, which is how to get the most out of an online film course. It won't be as one-on-one. It'll be harder for you to learn as much as if this course were in the traditional way, and I want you to really try hard to do that so that you gain from it and really earn your 3 hours of credit. Dr. Kondraby, do you think that students can get as much out of an online course as they can in a traditional classroom?
I think that for both students and faculty, getting as much out of an online course is a real challenge, particularly, I think, for students. And I say that because in a traditional course, students can perhaps be a little lax sometimes about reading or assignments, and they can depend upon what's actually going to then unfold in class to move them along in their understanding and in their competence. But that ability to always be in touch with your professor just isn't available to you online the way it is in a traditional course. So I think that the way that a student can get almost the same amount of content from an online course is first of all to read absolutely everything that is assigned. You really can't slack off on that at all. And to complete all of the assignments, and particularly if there are opportunities to discuss with peers and your professor in a discussion board, to go beyond whatever the minimum expectations are for that, because that really substitutes for what ordinarily goes on in the classroom. And of course, you would also want to take every opportunity possible to engage with your professor, whether the professor initiates it or whether you initiate it. I think that if a student does all of that, they can come pretty close to getting what won't be exactly the same experience, but a high-quality experience.
So, Dr. Permenter, I know whenever writers write a novel or a piece of fiction, they use words to create images, and sometimes it can take a lot of words to create one image, and writers don't necessarily have an end goal, I guess. So I'm wondering, do directors of film, do they think of every single image that they put on the screen before they do it, or do they just put things together kind of roughly and hope that the viewer gets it?
That's a great question, Tristina, and it doesn't really have a simple answer. My first reaction for students is to say yes. Everything was planned. It's so important to consider the composition of the frame, but what you've got in filmmaking, which is so different from when you're writing your fiction, is that it's a collaborative art. So in terms of that image, it's not only the director, it's the writer, the director, and the cinematographer, and the editor who, in a collaborative way, make this work or not work. What's really amazing about film is that if one of those artists isn't as good as the others, the film could go from an A film to a C film. Most directors think about the scene, but you've got extremes. You've got Alfred Hitchcock, who does a storyboard and thinks of everything, right, beforehand. And then you've got Robert Altman, who just says, let's just shoot and see what happens, and go from there.
This is the course textbook for film analysis, and Dr. Permenter says that you can get it on half.com. This is the 9th edition. It was $9.99, but you can use anything from the 8th edition to the 12th edition and be fine.